Welcome. We're back. It's been a few weeks. It's been crazy. This is Evan Says. I say whatever I want. I say what's on my mind. And there's a lot going on now. I'm in my sports duds because I find fall to be the most exciting season. I loved fall growing up. I was on the cross country team growing up. It was the best. And with all football being back and baseball's wrapping up and the NBA is right around the corner and there's even hockey for people that like hockey. I worked for the NHL, so I can mention hockey. Um, this is a fun time of the year. There's been crazy stuff going on. That's the thing. Sundays in the fall, having grown up in New York, were crazy days. So much going on. And just to check back in with you guys, my weekend was crazy. I want to charge in my laptop. Hold on one second. So my weekend was crazy. If you don't know, besides maybe having a podcast like Evan says, I could have a podcast called Evan Tutors because I tutor a lot. Tutor 11 hours straight on Saturday, no breaks. Tutor 10 hours straight, Sunday, no breaks. And here we are. Always time for more. So still energized for this to talk to you guys again because there's just so much fun, so many fun things to react to in the sports scene. I'm going to even go off frame again. So many things to react to in the sports scene because like you have hope, you have disappointment, you have anticipation, and you have boredom. And that's how I probably want to sum up the dynamic of Yankees, Mets, Giants, Jets, name of this episode. My influence is Mike Francesa. If I can be similar to him, that'd be great. He always says things that are just a little bit different than what everyone else says in a certain way. But once you get used to what he says, you kind of know what's coming. So hopefully I can get known enough to where you guys know what's coming. All right. My allegiances are Yankees, Jets, Knicks, pretty much. Hockey, maybe Rangers, maybe some Islanders to support Long Island. So I'm going to start with the Mets. I'm not a Mets fan, but I like seeing the Mets do well. Watching the Mets last season, how they were able to get into the playoffs with Atlanta and then beat Milwaukee was pretty just like dramatic, cinematic material. No matter whether you were a fan of them or not. I just remember I was like putting something together, like maybe I was putting a crib together, like following this Mets game of them having to win to advance, and the elation that the fans had, and the elation I've seen, like when the Mets last went to the World Series and they sang Piano Man to Billy Joel, like that's cool community building stuff in sports. Today is the exact opposite because the Mets, if you are new to the season, which has just ended, the Mets were the best team, like 45-24 in MLB. We were like writing their tickets, stamping them. They're the big brothers. They're going to they're going to sun the Yankees. And since that time in June, I want to say, maybe late May, they were basically over 15 games under 500. But the Mets still, see, this is the worst way to lose. The worst way to lose is not just to blow it all at once. It's to like slowly like chip away at you day by day, game by game. And I feel like the Mets, from a romantic, like cinematic perspective, played their role perfectly. If Mets fans were like, what could be the most heart-wrenching way to lose and be eliminated from the playoffs? It would be this. The Mets pretty much controlled their own destiny until about a week before the end of the season, competing with the Cincinnati Reds and the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Arizona Diamondbacks fell by the wayside the last few days, but the Reds, not necessarily winning every game. They did sweep Chicago for 4 games. That's what really made this happen. But the Mets losing 2 out of 3 to the Washington Nationals and then losing to the Marlins like 2 out of 3. Like, you can't beat this. The final day of the season, they didn't control their own destiny. Yet the Reds lost. But the Mets not only lost, but were shut out in the final game of the season. Perfection on a disappointment level. You have to admire the perfection of how perfectly the Mets blew their season. Like, I'm not going to like tear them up. I'm not going to eviscerate them. You have to admire how awesome it was for a team to be basically in control of things so much of their life, which is this season. Seasons like every season's like new life, and to lose it in like a buzzer beater like that, it hurts so much. If I was a Met fan, I think I'd want to see the manager fired. I think I'd want to bring Pete Alonso back, who's already opted out for free agency. But as a Yankee fan who enjoyed having Juan Soto because he is the best. He's a great player and he was the best complement to Aaron Judge. And I really feel like he was a natural fit for the Bronx. Like there was just something about him that just fit right in the Bronx. But as you now know, Met fans, he is a mercenary. He will try to help you win, but he will also try to help himself and be looking out for himself first, which is okay. You can have that. You can have ego. You should have ego. If you make it to the highest level of your professional sport, you should have ego. But I feel like he is an individual that has been joining these other 24 players on their team. And you guys now have him for probably 14 more years. He spent the money. He probably ended up with a good season. He actually wasn't doing that great when the Mets were doing really well. And how it all like flipped is kind of also adds to the romantic disappointment and the beautiful sadness of this fall. But I hope things are better for you guys next year. I mean, you finished over 500, but you probably should have won at least 10 more games this season. Pitching was a mess. Bullpen was supposed to be good. It's just sometimes just things did not add up. Okay, moving on. Let's get to the Yankees. My team. I am satiated with the Yankees, having grown up going into college and high school when the Yankees were basically ringing up championships with Jeter, Mariano, Pettit, Posada, Bernie. I would be fine if the Yankees never won again in my lifetime. That's fine. Would I like to see them win? Yes. Was I heartbroken like following game one of the World Series on my phone as I was traveling to a gig in Chicago? Yes. It stunk. So I'm not overly like angry. Like it doesn't hurt me to my core. Like if for the Knicks and the Jets, that hurts me to my core. That's where sometimes I'm so scared I can't watch the game. But for the Yankees, I think they can do well. I think they can get just as far as they did last season. They were made to look very good for these last couple weeks of the season because they were playing weaker teams. So I think that makes people think they have hope, but they did struggle a lot against good teams during the season. Red Sox came into our building, had their way with us most of the time. Would I be surprised if the Red Sox came in just 2 days later, they win the series? Sure. I think the Yanks will win the wild card round. I think they can go into Toronto and beat the Blue Jays because I just think the October is a different beast. And I think that maybe this is the year that Aaron Judge turns around the postseason. And I feel like there's enough components that are backing each other up where I feel like as long as the starting pitching is adequate, as long as the bullpen's not overly used and overly exposed, the Yankees should be okay. I'm not going to be diehard about it, but I definitely want them to win. As a Yankee fan, I am satiated. I do not need another championship, but if it does, I will live it up and I will love it. So that's baseball. Let's get to football. I mean, the Mets. It's amazing the way the Mets fell. Like you can't. It's so good. Anyway, football. Giants fans, you have yourself, for this week at least, a new quarterback. Unfortunately, you did lose Malik Neighbors today to probably an ACL tear, which is horrible. It's horrible luck. Whenever athletes get injured, with what I know and my philosophy, I wish athletes would just know where injuries can come from, not just the physical nature. I wish athletes could understand that there is a cosmic spiritual component to why injuries happen to certain people at certain times. I'm not going to get deeper than that. I know it sucks to watch it happen. if I could clone myself, or maybe as a second career, I would go around to these teams and I would tell them, you got to do this with these guys so these things do not happen. But it did. You've been teased. I think Jaxson Dart he's only like 22, 23 years old. He can be a really great quarterback for you guys for like at least a decade. If he has that kind of swag and, you kind of have him on the cheap, you could potentially, maybe not too much is promised this season. You lost Malik Neighbors. You could draft another wide receiver next year in the first round. Maybe you can draft another offensive lineman in the first round to support Jaxson Dart. He may save you guys. This team could very easily, if they can beat the Chargers, maybe they can finish 8-8. Conventional wisdom tells me the Giants have like 4-13 again, all written all over them. That's just, they've been given a horrible schedule. People ask me, but Giants were so bad last year. Why did they get such a horrible schedule? The way the NFL scheduling works is you play like every team in a division in the AFC and in the NFC, not including your own AFC or NFC division. So I guess the Giants just kind of drooshed. It was their time this year to play basically the best division in the NFC and the best division in the AFC, and there's no way around it. They'll be lucky if they win more than 4 games. I liked the Giants when I was in middle school. I turned over to the Jets once Boomer Esiason came to the Jets, and once his kids went to school with my sister. That's when I turned over to the Jets. And by the way, I just got my ESPN Unlimited or bundle for a change because of the WWE going to ESPN. And I got to watch the Boomer Esiason a Second Breath documentary, A Second Wind with Gunnar Esiason, and the whole chronology of him. I remember because I like lived through it. I was like following it. It was great to see what Gunnar had to go through and really understand like how much like attention and how much like you're always tired if you don't have like the right treatment to handle cystic fibrosis. It's amazing to see all that. Anyway, I digress. I'd like to see the Giants do well. I feel like in the last 10 years since Rex Ryan, and because of things like Tim Tebow and Aaron Rodgers, I feel like the Jets have just been a juicier, more tabloid-friendly team. And we don't want that. So with the Jets, I don't really know what I want from the Jets this year. Would I like them to go to the playoffs? Sure. But they're 0-3. Do I think Justin Fields is the answer? No. Would I like to see them draft a quarterback in the first round next year? Yes. So, but the Jets have a really fair schedule. Like they could go 7-10 and they could go, or 8-9. I don't see them going over 500. This is like, this is the, we'll see what you got year for Aaron Glenn. And then we'll check in with what happens next year, and we'll see the progress of everything. I will root for the Jets. I follow the Jets. I'm so busy because I'm tutoring 10 and 11 hour days that I don't really know. I don't really get to see the games live. I even have I'm on a family plan for a Sunday ticket. I can't see the games ever. So I have to wait for it's like a Thursday night game or maybe it's a Saturday night game. But I hope the Jets do well. I'd like to see them do well. I think we're long overdue for something. The last good season we had was the Todd Bowles season where the Jets lost in Buffalo, the final game of the season. And we've been trash ever since. We are a good model of trash to follow. Now, the trash of the Jets is different than the plight of the Mets because the Mets have such a higher ceiling that it was just so beautifully tragic how they got eliminated on the final day of the MLB season. Anyway, that's where we are in sports. I'm excited about it. One other thing I was going to talk about, I will. Now, this is a New York sports episode, but I'm in California. Me and the knowledge of California leadership is a rough go because there's only one thing that we're voting on this year, 2025. Californians, if you've heard of Proposition 50, It is something that is so unconstitutionally horrible. So basically, we have a new president who's the old president who's back. And California has chosen to pass a law to allow voters to choose independent commissions to no longer choose where the voting districts are, but to let the legislature choose the voters where the voting districts are. And there's even like a sketch out of like what the new districts would be like this November. And it basically kind of disenfranchises a lot of maybe the minority viewpoints of the state. So it really tilts things. A proposition, if you've gotten, I got the sample ballot this week. The proposition is really poor when you have to mention another state in your explanation of the proposition. Like, listen, Texas did this, so we're just going to do this, and you guys are going to vote for it. And the way it's advertised is very effective because they're very good at mentioning the exact opposite in the commercials of what Proposition 50 would actually do. It would really you can only skew things so much, but they're basically trying to skew the voting districts for 2026, 2028, and I think 2030. They're like breaking their own state constitution to do this temporarily, but politicians, like Schwarzenegger says, politicians never do anything temporary. They like to they're going to hold on to that. So it sucks. It sucks when any political party has like one side to it because it goes both ways. And this is, I am not interested in politics anymore. I ran for office in 2020. It was nice. It took away time from other things that it shouldn't have. But I've learned my lesson. And I know that politics is uninteresting pro wrestling. And I know that both sides, politically elected sides, are both incomplete individuals. They're both incomplete beings because both sides matter. And that's why they need to work together. But obviously there's more money in division and fighting. But anyway, Proposition 50, a yes would promote this skewed anti-constitutional districting that would really it's a short-term fix that they're trying to do, I believe, as the guy in charge now wants to run for the White House in 2028. It's obvious. So if you get those ballots, Californians, I say vote no. I say vote no. I just think it's a rule. Like if there's ever a proposition coming out, I would just always by default say no, because it was all so simple way back when. Now I'm not saying anarchy is the way, but I'm saying, there's lots of red tape now in the world, and things were better before all these laws get pushed through a legislature every year and add these little fine-tuned points, bullet point here, exception there, exemption over here. Like there's lots of loopholes that don't be needed. Less is more. But here we are, and that's happening. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're not in California, don't worry. You're temporarily safe. But for you guys in it, it's better to not let those elected with special interests make our decisions for us. We can obviously outcreate this. I have outcreated the peril that the state has kind of put a lot of people in. But other than that, I'll leave it there. I have other things to say, maybe down the road. I'll leave it there. Am I enjoying things now in a post-2024 world? A little bit. Am I in heaven? No. But still, I'm happy. So hopefully you're happy too. Before I head out, how do I get rid of all these widgets? All these widgets that came up on my screen. This is super annoying. I have a ticker. Where's my ticker? I have a ticker. I'm going to put some dates up. If you guys are around, I got gigs coming up. I got to do a virtual show. I got to practice my Zoom comedy. I got to start rehearsing again to get my voice in shape to hang in there. I couldn't even hang in probably for this podcast. But California, October 14th. I guess I'm hosting something at Long Beach State. I think it's going to be a bunch of students speaking their piece. It's called a Night of Narratives, and at Long Beach State, I'm there as a performer, as the guy running the show. Another thing, November, I'm going to Tennessee Wesleyan, but I expect to stop in Nashville. I want to go to JBJ's Nash, the new bar there by John Bon Jovi. And then I want to maybe see some friends. And then before I go back to California, I stop in California, Northern California, Sacramento State, noontime, lunchtime on November 12th. So, few shows out there, always trying to get more. I will fly wherever you see this. I will fly to you. I need miles. I need to get to 1,000,000 miles. I'm over 800,000. So thanks for sticking around. Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants. Man, Mets. That's you have to have some kind of. It's like when the way my Knicks lost Game 1 to the Pacers this last postseason. Like so many things had to go a certain way for that horrible, horrible experience of my life to take place. And it did. And hopefully they can get back, and hopefully Mike Brown shows improvement, because otherwise, Team Tibbs forever. All right. So Evan says.live. Find me on social media at Evan Wexell. And this was Evan Says. I will never stop saying, say ya.